Hi everybody, I'm Joe Parker of the Pixel Depot, and it is time for bonus content! So in my last video, which was about wiring for the Grunge, one of the things that I covered in there was how I run my bus wires. For the Grunge, it wasn't really that big of a deal to use the suitcase connectors kind of as is. But for my main layout, the Monument City Terminal Division, I generally want something that's a little bit more permanent. So I will take off some of the insulation on the bus wire so that the metal clips in the suitcase connectors get a really good connection, metal on metal, for the electrical current to run through. It wasn't really necessary for the Grunge since there's really not that much length to it, but for the main layout, that's something I try to do. I cut it out of the main video because it was starting to run a little long, but I did want to present that information to you. So the main tool that I use for that is a vice grip wire stripper, and it looks like this. These that I bought many years ago are actually the brand Ideal. It's the Ideal Strip Master, but I did do a check online on Amazon and some other places, and there are plenty of these available. So all you need to do is do a search for vice grip wire stripper, and you'll be able to find all different kinds of models at different price points. What these are designed to do is to cut through the insulation but not cut into the wire, and move the insulation off to one side so that it exposes the wire underneath. My aversion to soldering is well documented by this point, so I always rely on these suitcase connectors to do the connections to the bus lines. They come in different sizes. This particular one, the brown one, is geared towards 12 to 14 gauge bus line and 18 to 20, I believe, drop lines. And basically what happens is you put the two wires in there, this metal clip gets pressed down and makes the contact between the two wires, and off you go. Some people swear by these, some people hate these. I'm in the camp of those that swear by them. I've used them on, this will be my fourth layout to use them. I've never had any issues with corrosion or anything like that, but I do also try to keep the layout room relatively humidity free using a dehumidifier, so my situation may not be completely typical, but I'll show you how these work. There's a couple ways that you can do this in terms of the bus wire. So these are designed to be able to just clip on here without having to make any cuts in the insulation. And these clips have little notches in them. And those are supposed to cut through the insulation and make contact with the wire. I often try to be a little bit more proactive with that and use this tool, which actually cuts the insulation and separates it a little bit. That may be tough with the number of drops that I have per foot here, just because it actually does slide this insulation one way or the other. So I'm gonna, for the most part, not use this, but in the interest of showing you how this works, I will make a couple of cuts here. So this is 12 gauge wire, which is the third hole in, and get it in there, separate it out, and you get this. I will repeat that for the white wire, but like I said, this will be the only one I do this for. From there, you slip the suitcase connector on, and you put the drop in the other side, and then crimp it. And then the suitcase connector closes like that, and you've got a solid connection. Repeat that with the white. Drop that there. Crimp it together. Come on. That slipped out. Let's make sure we get it in there before we crimp it. squeeze too much. There we go. And off we go to the races. I'll do that 34 more times, and we will be wired. As I mentioned before, the tool is designed to cut the insulation and move the wire insulation off to the side. If you're doing a whole bunch of these underneath the layout, sometimes you will need to make 2 cuts to give you a small area, and then use a knife of some sort to cut the insulation away. Because if you're putting a bunch of these in line in a small area, the insulation has nowhere to go essentially, so you'll need to remove some of that from there. But in general, if you're using this along a long stretch of bus line, you don't usually have to worry about it. So that's all I wanted to cover for you today. I'm Joe Parker of the Pixel Depot. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you meet me next time in the train room. Bonus content! Bonus content!